What would you do if your neighbor pretended to be friendly, only to turn around and try to push you out of your own community? That's the thing about people like Karen, you never see them coming until it's too late. One minute, life feels routine, predictable, safe. The next, you realize someone has been quietly working against you, waiting for the right moment to strike. Mornings in our house used to be chaotic. Getting Caleb up for school was once a battle of epic proportions, whining, bargaining, the occasional dramatic flopping onto the floor like a soccer player faking an injury. Now, at 6 years old, he's a champion. The moment my alarm buzzes at 6:30 a.m., he's already jumping out of bed, excited to pick out his outfit like he's styling a red carpet look. Today, it's his Avengers t-shirt and bright red sneakers, his signature combo. He grins at me, his backpack nearly toppling him over as he throws it on. "I'm ready, Dad." I shake my head, amused. Breakfast first, superhero. I work from home as a freelance web developer, which means my mornings are a balancing act, checking client emails, debugging code, making sure Caleb eats something more substantial than 3 bites of toast. It's exhausting, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. After Emily passed away, everything changed. Cancer is a thief, it took her from us so quickly, we barely had time to prepare. But we had Caleb, and he's the reason I drag myself out of bed every morning. No matter how much it hurts, no matter how empty the house feels without her laughter, he keeps me moving. We live in a quiet, suburban neighborhood, the kind with well-manicured lawns, tree-lined streets, and an HOA that pretends to care about community values while mostly existing to make life miserable for anyone who doesn't fit their perfect mold. When Emily died, I debated moving, starting fresh somewhere else. But this is our home. This is where Caleb has his friends, where his mother's memory is woven into every inch of our lives. I refuse to let grief chase us away. By the time we pull up to the school, the morning chaos is in full swing, minivans unloading, parents chatting, kids dashing toward the entrance like it's the starting line of a race. Caleb spots his best friend Ethan and immediately launches himself out of the car, backpack bouncing. "Ethan, wait up," he yells, already forgetting I exist. I watch him go, that familiar warmth settling in my chest. These little moments, the simple everyday joys, are what keep me going. I adjust my rearview mirror, ready to pull away, until a voice cuts through the morning air. "Excuse me. You there, in the car?" The sharpness of it makes my stomach tighten. There's something in the tone, an authority that hasn't been earned, a demand instead of a request. I turn to see a woman standing beside my vehicle, arms crossed, expression tight. Mid-50s, severe haircut, expensive handbag slung over one shoulder like a weapon. I roll down the window, forcing a polite smile. "Can I help you?" Her lips press into a thin line. "Yes, you can." She leans in slightly, voice dripping with something I can't quite place yet, but my gut already knows where this is going. "You can take your son and leave. He doesn't belong here." I blink, momentarily stunned, unsure if I actually heard her correctly. "I'm sorry, what did you just say?" She doesn't hesitate, doesn't flinch, doesn't lower her voice even though parents are still lingering around, chatting over coffee, watching their kids disappear into the school building. Her confidence is chilling, like she believes she's untouchable. "You heard me." Her expression tightens, the faux politeness slipping away like a mask she's grown tired of wearing. "Your son doesn't belong here. This is a good school, for good children. And people like you are ruining this community." My fingers curl around the steering wheel, knuckles going white. It takes everything in me to stay calm, to keep my voice steady when I speak. "People like me?" Her mouth twists into something that isn't quite a smile. "You know exactly what I mean." "I do. And that's the worst part." I glance around, hoping someone, anyone, has noticed this, but most parents are lost in their own morning routines. No one is paying attention. And I wonder, for the briefest moment, if that's exactly why she picked now to say this. I take a deep breath, steadying myself, because losing my temper won't fix anything. Yelling won't change her mind. I force my voice to stay calm. My son has been at this school for years. He's thriving here. So, no, I won't be going anywhere. Her eyes narrow. We'll see about that. Before I can respond, I hear the familiar thud of small feet racing across pavement. Dad, I forgot my lunchbox. Caleb is running toward the car, a grin still on his face, until he gets closer and sees her standing there. His smile falters slightly, his brows knitting together in confusion as he looks between us. He's young, but he's smart. He knows when something's wrong. I quickly reach over, grab his lunchbox from the passenger seat, and hand it to him. Here you go, buddy. I try to sound normal, to keep my voice even. I don't want him to feel this, to carry this, to let her poison seep into his innocent mind. But she doesn't stop. She looks at Caleb like he's an object instead of a child, tilting her head slightly before sneering, see? He doesn't even belong here. He probably doesn't even speak English properly. The words hit like a slap. I feel the sharp inhale from Caleb before I see his face change. The confusion in his eyes flickers into something else, something I hate that he has to experience so young. Hurt. He looks up at me, voice quieter now. Dad? I swallow down the fury burning my throat. I kneel, resting a hand on his shoulder. Go on inside, Caleb. I'll be right there. He hesitates for a second, eyes searching mine for reassurance. I nod, and he nods back, turning on his heel. But before he walks away, before I can stop him, he spins back toward Karen. His small chest puffs out, his voice clear and unwavering in a way that makes my heart ache with both pride and sorrow. My name is Caleb, he says. And I do belong here. This is my school. This is my home. This is my country. Karen freezes, completely thrown off. For the first time since she walked up to my car, she looks unsettled. Like she expected him to shrink away in fear, to let her words define him. But Caleb doesn't. And then, before she can recover, he turns and runs toward the school, disappearing through the doors. I exhale, my chest tight, emotions twisting together in a way I can't untangle. But Karen? She's already recovered, her lips curling upward in something that makes my stomach churn. Well, that was rude, she says mockingly, shaking her head as if Caleb just proved her point. And then, as if she isn't already unhinged enough, she gasps and dramatically clutches her chest. Did you hear that? Your son just disrespected an adult. I narrow my eyes. He stood up for himself. That's not disrespect. That's courage. She doesn't like that answer. Her nostrils flare slightly before she shifts tactics so smoothly, it's disturbing. It must be hard for a boy like that. No proper structure at home, no real guidance. No mother. My stomach twists. She knows exactly what she's doing, digging into a wound she assumes will break me down. But she underestimates me. I straighten, my voice firm. We're done here. I reach for the window controls, prepared to shut this down, but before I can, she does something I never could have predicted. She pulls out her phone, flips to her camera, and presses record. I just want this on record, she says, her voice dripping with false innocence. This man has been acting aggressively toward me in front of the school. I laugh, a humorless, disbelieving sound. You have got to be kidding me. She keeps going, the camera still rolling. I just want to make sure my community is safe. I'm calling the police. And then, before I can say another word, she dials. Hello? Yes, I need to report a suspicious man outside the elementary school. I feel the heat rising in my chest, a mix of disbelief and anger burning through me as Karen speaks into the phone, her voice trembling in a way that is so obviously rehearsed it makes my stomach turn. Yes, I'm outside the elementary school. There's a man here, being aggressive. I don't feel safe. She casts a quick glance at me, as if gauging my reaction, and I swear, I see the glint of satisfaction in her eyes. I let out a slow breath, hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles ache. I know exactly what she's doing. I know the weight of those words, the danger they carry. A man here, being aggressive. That phrase has gotten people hurt. That phrase has gotten people killed. A few parents nearby start to take notice, their casual conversations slowing as they turn toward us. A woman standing near the curb furrows her brow. Another dad, mid-goodbye with his kid, frowns in confusion. Karen sees them looking. She raises her voice just slightly, making sure she has an audience. Yes, I'd like someone to come check it out. He's refusing to leave, and honestly, I just don't feel safe with him around our children. I exhale sharply, pushing open my car door. If she wants an audience, she's got one. The moment I step out, she flinches back, her free hand flying to her chest like I just pulled a knife on her. The theatrics would be comical if they weren't so damn dangerous. I keep my hands visible, my voice measured. Karen, you know exactly what you're doing. She doesn't even blink. I'm ensuring the safety of this school. A murmur rises from the nearby parents. I see Rachel step forward, her eyes locked onto Karen like a hawk spotting a rodent. Are you serious? She says, voice thick with disgust. We all saw what happened. You walked up to his car. You started this. Karen's mouth tightens. I was simply making sure he knew the rules. What rules? Rachel challenges. The ones you make up as you go? Before Karen can respond, another voice cuts in. This isn't the first time, someone mutters. I turn, and my stomach clenches as I see who's speaking. Jake, another dad at the school, steps forward, arms crossed over his chest. He looks between Karen and me, then shakes his head. You've had a problem with this family for years, Karen. My wife and I remember how you used to complain about Caleb playing outside. About his dad parking in the street. About Emily. The name lands like a brick in my chest. Karen stiffens. Rachel's eyes widen. Oh my God, she breathes. Emily. I remember. You said something to her, didn't you? Before she got sick. Karen's face flushes deep red. That was completely different. No, Rachel snaps. It wasn't. The murmuring grows louder. Parents whispering. Heads turning. For the first time since this started, Karen's composure cracks. I see it in the way her jaw clenches, the way her grip tightens around her phone. She realizes she's lost control of the situation. And that's when Caleb comes back. He must have heard the voices, sensed the tension, because suddenly, he's standing at the entrance of the school, watching. And just like before, he refuses to back down. He takes a step forward, his small shoulders squared. Are you still bothering my dad? His voice is steady, louder than before. What's your problem? Karen's lips press into a thin line. This is an adult conversation. Caleb doesn't blink. Then why are you acting like a little kid? A stunned silence. A few parents chuckle. Someone coughs to cover a laugh. Karen looks like she's just been slapped. Caleb doesn't stop. You keep saying I don't belong here, but guess what? I do. And no matter what you say, I'm not going anywhere. Karen looks around wildly, searching for an ally. She finds none. Even the parents who had been unsure at first now stand firm. Jake steps closer, arms still crossed. You heard him, Karen. You need to leave. Rachel nods. You called the cops over nothing. You're embarrassing yourself. Karen's mouth opens, then closes. She grips her handbag so tightly her knuckles turn white. Then, finally, she does the only thing she can. She turns, chin high, and marches away. The moment she's gone, I feel a weight lift off my chest. I look down at Caleb, whose hands are still balled into tiny fists. I kneel in front of him, resting a hand on his shoulder. You okay? He exhales. Yeah. She was really annoying, though. I laugh, ruffling his hair. Yeah, she was. Rachel steps up, voice softer now. I'm sorry that happened. Jake nods. We've got your back, man. All of us. I look around at the parents, at the people who didn't let Karen's poison take root. Relief washes over me. Maybe this isn't just my fight. Maybe, just maybe, we aren't alone. The tension lingers even after Karen storms off, her designer handbag swinging with each stiff step like she's trying to hold on to whatever dignity she thinks she has left. The parents who gathered slowly begin dispersing, shaking their heads, muttering amongst themselves, but the energy in the air has shifted. This wasn't just an uncomfortable school drop-off anymore. It was something bigger, something that had been festering beneath the surface for a long time. Rachel is the first to say it out loud. I can't believe she tried to call the police on you, she mutters, still glaring in the direction Karen disappeared. Then, as if realizing something, she turns to me, expression darkening. Actually, no. I can believe it. Jake exhales sharply. This isn't new for her, he says, his voice edged with frustration. She's been pulling crap like this for years, hasn't she? The knot in my stomach tightens. Because yes. Yes, she has. I've dealt with Karen's passive-aggressive nonsense since the moment Emily and I moved into the neighborhood. At first, it was little things, pointed glances at HOA meetings, unsolicited advice about how certain people should learn to keep their yards neater. Then, after Emily got sick, it escalated. Complaints about my car, about Caleb playing too loudly, about me not keeping up appearances like the other families. It had felt personal back then, but I brushed it off. I had bigger things to worry about, Emily's health, taking care of Caleb, making sure our world didn't completely fall apart. But now, hearing Rachel and Jake talk about it, seeing the looks on the other parents' faces, I realize, I wasn't imagining it. Karen's been targeting us for years. And worse? I wasn't the only one. Remember the Patel family? Rachel says, shaking her head. She made their lives miserable. Filed noise complaints constantly until they finally moved. Jake nods. And the Jacksons. She told them their yard decorations didn't fit the neighborhood's aesthetic. Pretty sure she just didn't like the fact that they weren't like her. I feel sick. This isn't just a one-time incident. This isn't just about me or Caleb. Karen's been doing this for years. Rachel crosses her arms, looking at the remaining parents. I think it's time we do something about this. I don't know why, but that surprises me. I've spent so much time believing I had to handle things on my own that the idea of other people stepping up, of an entire community saying no, this isn't okay, throws me for a loop. What do you mean? I ask. Jake glances at the school building, his jaw tightening. She just tried to get your kid in trouble for standing up for himself. She tried to call the cops on you just because she didn't like that you were here. She's a problem. And she hides behind the HOA like it gives her a free pass. Rachel nods. She doesn't just get to walk away from this. Not this time. The weight in my chest shifts into something else. Something like relief. Like maybe, for the first time since Emily passed, I'm not fighting alone. Then the school doors swing open, and Mrs. Carter steps outside. She spots me immediately, her brow furrowing in concern as she approaches. "I heard what happened," she says, voice gentle. "Are you alright?" I nod, but I can't bring myself to say much. She exhales, glancing between me, Rachel, and Jake before her expression hardens. This isn't something we take lightly. If a parent is making children feel unsafe, any child, we have to address it. There's a pause, a brief moment where I realize what she's saying. She's not just offering sympathy. She's offering action. "I'll be speaking to the principal about this today," she continues. "And I encourage you to report what happened as well. We don't tolerate harassment on school grounds. Not from anyone." I swallow, nodding. Rachel steps closer, her voice firm. "We're reporting her to the HOA, too. It's time someone holds her accountable." Mrs. Carter gives a sharp nod of approval. "Good. She doesn't get to do this without consequences." The knot in my chest finally starts to loosen. I look toward the school, where I know Caleb is inside, safe. Strong. Karen thought she could control this neighborhood, that she could make people like us feel small, feel unwanted. But she was wrong. And now, for the first time, she was about to learn what it felt like to be the one who didn't belong. That night, after Caleb had finally fallen asleep, I sat at my desk, staring at the blank document on my screen. Normally, this time of night was for coding, for answering late client emails, for doing whatever it took to keep our lives moving forward. But tonight, my fingers hovered over the keyboard, waiting, uncertain. I wasn't sure what I wanted to say at first. The anger still simmered beneath my skin, the weight of what had happened pressing against my ribs. But beneath the frustration, beneath the exhaustion, there was something else. Something I hadn't expected. Hope. Because today, for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel alone. I thought back to Caleb standing his ground, his little chest puffed out as he stared Karen down without a hint of fear. I thought about Rachel stepping forward, about Jake backing me up, about the way the other parents had refused to stay silent. I thought about Mrs. Carter's firm voice as she promised action, about the quiet nods from parents who had once ignored Karen's behavior but now couldn't look away. This wasn't just my fight anymore. And Karen? She lost. Not just today, but in the long run. People like her always do. They think their control is permanent, that their power is unshakable, but the moment people stop accepting their behavior, they lose the only thing keeping them in control, fear. I started typing. Not code, but words. Words about what happened. About how hatred hides in plain sight, sometimes disguised as polite conversation, as concerned parents, as HOA rules and school regulations. About how silence enables it, and how speaking up, even when it's terrifying, is the only way to stop it. I wrote about Caleb, about his courage, about how proud I was of him. And as I finished, I thought about Emily. About how furious she would have been, how fiercely she would have defended our son. But I also knew she would have been proud. Proud of Caleb, proud of me, proud of the people who chose to stand on the right side of this fight. We weren't done. There would be more Karens. More battles. More moments where I would have to remind Caleb that no matter what anyone says, he belongs. But after today, I knew one thing for sure. We weren't fighting alone. So what about you? Have you ever faced a Karen in your neighborhood or your school? How did you handle it? Let's hear your story. I have a feeling we're not the only ones.